I am so pleased to have my next guest with me. My goodness, we go back many years now, and he has been with me as a member of Project 21 Black Leadership, and is also a former recipient of Tea Party Member of the Year for the state of Indiana, and just an incredibly awesome and strong patriot conservative voice. And I'm so pleased to have my friend Emery McClendon with me. Emery, welcome. Good to have you. Oh, hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. I didn't mute. There we go. Okay, now we're good. I needed to unmute one more thing. I apologize. Good to have you with me, sir.
I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me on the show. And I tell you, there's just so much going on in the world today. So I'm very happy to be here to share what I think are important issues to the American people.
Well, you've got a brand new article and you were just telling me that you weren't even sure, based on the fact that you were a quote unquote dissenting opinion in the conversation that you were having, that's been published in the Journal Gazette, entitled "To Return to Greatness, Society Must Obliterate DEI." And certainly that's not a politically correct statement. Emery, talk to me a little bit about the article and the germination of it, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I wrote the article because I kept seeing things in this community, in our school systems, not only in our city, but in the county, and also throughout the state of Indiana, about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how good it is, and then how much progress they're making in taking over our school systems, our government offices, our military, you name it, corporations. It's everywhere, and people are being suckered into the idea that diversity, equity, and inclusion is a very good idea, and they're not being told the truth about what the real meanings are behind this concept. And so I decided, hey, I'm going to submit this to Project 21 and see if they can help me get the word spread around. And it took a while, but eventually it came up in the Journal Gazette, which is a very widely dispersed paper in northeast Indiana. And then there are some other little small towns and cities around here that feed off of the Journal Gazette. So it'll publish it in their publications also. So what I want to do is show people the need to return back to true values, and to let parents know that what their children are being taught in schools, what they're being taught in these universities, is not really what the American dream is all about and what our children should be learning. And it's not what we need in our institutions, in our government, in our military, in our police departments, because it bases promotions and it bases progress in these systems and in these corporations, in our military, in our government, you name it, anywhere where they put it. And they're instituting it all over, and they're not even giving the people that have an opposing view a chance to apply for these jobs. And they're coming up with these departments, and they're paying these people humongous salaries. They're giving them positions that have lots of power that's unopposed.
Well, it's interesting. Bloomberg Law has a story. I was actually talking to a friend of mine last night, whose name will not remain, or will not come out on our program, but he happens to be to work for Red Hat. And I don't know if you saw this or not, but the Steve Miller Group has sued IBM's Red Hat for white male bias. 21 former Red Hat employees whose careers were upended. They were denied promotions. They were denied opportunities, and essentially every single one of them is a white male.
Yeah, and you're seeing these take place all over the country, and you're seeing large corporations, such as the other day, a story was written about BlackRock and how it's embracing DEI and these policies such as this to run their corporations, and to deny and to promote people. And in other organizations are coming. It's coming out of the woodwork, showing how they're basing all of their promotions, how they're basing their policies to run their companies based strictly on DEI. DEI it never allows the individual to use their inapt abilities that they have and their education, and it ranks them basically by their race, by their color, by their creeds, and by how their ideas fit in with those who run these different organizations like Black Lives Matters, Critical Race Theory, the 1619 Project, and other racist type theories and principles that we're being led into throughout the United States and around the world.
Well, and you know, the sexual orientation has now become a part of that play in as well. So it's, you know, and it's interesting, Emery, because, you know, this is not brand new. I remember my dad worked for the you know, Pac Bell before they broke up into all the Southern Bells. They were all under one roof, under one umbrella. And he was working for one of their companies out in California, and a promotion came up, and there were several candidates, and my dad and a black gentleman went up for the same position, and they promoted the black gentleman predicated on this same selective process. My dad was a union steward, and about 3 months down the road, the gentleman who had been promoted really did not have the training and the background to be able to perform the job. And so he destroyed a line of product because he made a mistake. And so, of course, they went after him, and my dad's job as union steward was to protect the employee, which he did. And he negotiated, you know, an arrangement for this gentleman and so on. But the point of it is that, you know, he shouldn't have been in that position. The company shouldn't have been in that position. And unfortunately, it was because of the affirmative action that my friend Ward Connerly fought so hard to have undone, changing things from equity to equality. Speak to that for just a minute, if you would. The difference between, because that's the E in this DEI, is everything needs to be equity when in reality it needs to be equality.
That's absolutely true. And see, that's one of the things that's fooled so many people here in America and in these corporations, school systems, and so forth, and even parents, because the average parent doesn't sit down and break out a Webster's dictionary every time a new term comes out. And that's one of the things that these people that push these policies, such as Kendi and different other ones that have come out with all of these, we have these diversity and equity positions in the government. They have an office in the Congress building. And so what they do here is they take these words and they use a sleight of hand to make us think that they believe more than what they actually stand for. Mm-hmm. And that's not true. Equity is totally different from equality. Equity means that you're going to give me something based on what I want, even if it means restitution, reparations, or whatever. Whereas equality, and also equity, includes that you may not have a certain quality that you need to proceed or to advance yourself. Equality means that you go out and you are giving a chance based on the equality of a position being open, and then you proving yourself that you're capable of handling that position or the outcomes that come with that. Equity doesn't depend on outcomes. Equity depends on giving people outcomes. And it's saying that I need these outcomes based upon taking from one side and giving to the other side unfairly.
It's lowering the standards. I mean, it's like the argument that's made about voting. If we're going to suggest that voters need to have an identification in order to vote, all of a sudden that becomes a race issue. And the irony of that is that the same people, so you have an upper authority that's saying this. the people they're saying it about have had to get identification in order to get the government assistance that those same people are trying to push them onto. They have to get an identification to get the government assistance, but they don't want them to have to get an identification to go vote because they say what, that they can't manage that. That sounds insulting to me.
Yeah, that's absolutely ridiculous. And see, that's the whole thing that boils down to diversity, equity, and inclusion is that it breaks down those barriers and it just gives people stuff uh, based on our interpretation of how we want to break the system down. And that's basically too what it's all about. It's breaking down the system, lowering standards, and giving people opportunities based on race, gender, or you name it. And you're right about the fact that it has moved into trying to make things like Title IX that has been changed by the Biden administration to include children not knowing exactly who they are, teaching them that they can be transsexual or they're not what they are on their birth certificates when they were born. And even in some cases, having people identify themselves as animals.
I mean, how absolutely, disgusting and degrading is that whole concept. But see, that comes out of the whole evolution, right? I mean, they started with the idea of evolution and the idea that we are animals, and that has a lot to do with why we are where we are and how young children are seeing themselves. And now they, yeah, like you said, I mean, this whole idea of kids thinking that they're cats or they're dogs. You've got children in classrooms with that are actually defecating in litter boxes in classrooms because they say I'm a cat.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous, and it boils down to now you can marry whoever you want to, whatever you want to. We've seen cases now of females marrying trees, saying that this is their husband or this is who I'm in love with. The same thing with you got the LGBTQ community now wanting to lower the age limit on whom they can marry and then what and who they can marry. Children, real young, they want to go into restrooms, they want to go into stores, school systems, and so forth. Buildings have the restrooms changed into non-gender biased restrooms and so forth. And a lot of things are going on behind the scenes in these places because they want to use these as crime scenes and as places to attack their victims. So this it irritates me, and that's what led me to go into this fight. And I've been fighting this fight for quite a while with the CRT and against the 1619 and against the racial bias that's being shown by these groups. And let's go back again. You mentioned that it's part of evolution. Yes, it is. And we also know that these people who are pushing these indoctrinations are part of the socialistic communist system. And that is based on a lot of Marxism and also on Charles Darwin and some of the principles that they want to eliminate religion. They want to eliminate any kind of organized community. So they look back to evolution, saying that it's survival of the fittest.
Yeah, well, they want to take out anything that has anything to do with God. They're just absolutely
Right.
committed to destroying that idea.
And that's what communism and socialism is all about. And they're constantly trying to move this country into that direction and away from our Republican form of government, which is based on democracy and also based upon our constitutional and most importantly biblical God-given inalienable rights and values.
Yeah, there was an article that I saw today when I was on a Signal chat. I'm trying to see if I can find it very quickly, but it had to do with another assault on Christianity. Let's see. National Cemetery blocks Knights of Columbus from hosting a religious Memorial Day service.
Wow. Yeah, and there's being more and more of that, and where they're blocking parents from going into schools, they're blocking what you might call your Memorial Day services or whatever. They're blocking uh, more and more. We're seeing there that they're blocking children being able to have their prayer groups, being able to have their Bible study groups and so forth in the schools. But yet at the same time, they can bring in the drag queens and they can bring in the tree huggers and the people who saying that they love kids and that they want to be transgenders and so forth, and teaching these kids that that's okay, but it's not okay to talk about God. It's not okay to talk about family values,
Yep.
and this is just totally wrong.
Now, I will tell you there is some good news, and I want to let folks know. Kennedy versus Bremerton School District. My friend Joe Kennedy, I believe you know Coach Joe. He won his Supreme Court case, and what's happening right now is they keep trying to push religion out. They keep trying to push this case that they're doing right now, blocking the Knights of Columbus, is in absolute direct opposition to a standing Supreme Court decision that gave Coach Joe Kennedy the victory and the ability to be able to pray and to hold these kinds of services in public. They are the National Cemetery has basically said to the Supreme Court, we're not going to listen to what you've already passed. And I hope that somebody grabs a hold of this case and pushes back on it. Before you go, I also just want to really quickly touch on this thing that we talked about also before we came on, and you were leading us in that direction, and I apologize that I kind of diverted for a moment, but that has to do with the violence issue. And when you keep telling groups of people that they're supposed to hate one another, or that one group is born hating another group, and so on and so forth, you are perpetrating violence on our society and on our culture. And we're watching it. I talked about it with Melanie Collette, and I talked about it earlier in the week when I showed some videos. And we're seeing this behavior. We're seeing, in many instances, groups of black young men that are attacking white kids, black girls that are attacking white kids, but they're being indoctrinated into that belief, Emery.
Yeah, and they think they're doing the right thing because they have the sponsorship and the authority of people like congressmen, uh, city
Jasmine.
leaders, county
Yeah.
leaders, state leaders, and so forth.
Yeah.
And they're carrying this out because they're being taught that, hey, by any means necessary, this is how we need to achieve our goals. And it's wrong because they're being led and indoctrinated in a false position. They're not giving the opportunity to hear the other side. So therefore, it's pushing them into more and more violence. They're being funded by different organizations that are left wing. They're also being told to go out into the streets. Like you have a person such as Charlie Kirk or Candace Owens or different other people that are going out to these campuses to speak, and then they block the entrances, start fires. You got, okay, hey, even take the most common one we see, the Hamas versus the Israeli. You got them setting up, blocking off streets going into these campuses, refusing to go home, uh, occupying them for long periods of time because they think that they have the right to commit violence. And the reason why they think so is because they're being indoctrinated to do so by these leaders of these different organizations that are saying that we have to take what we want. And even if it means breaking down the system, breaking down the family, because that is our 100% goal eventually anyway.
Well, and some of these things, that are out there, there. One of the videos that's up on Radio Genoa is two black kids that are in a fight, and a teacher tries to step in between them to kind of break up the fight, and one of the boys grabs the teacher and slams the teacher to the ground. This kind of behavior is just unacceptable.
Yeah, and then the teacher ends up getting fired or getting disciplined. And then you also have the case of some of the students that are being beat up and attacked are dying, or they're having permanent disabilities,
Yeah.
and nothing is being done to the perpetrators. And it's just an atrocity. And, until we begin to look at this and open people's minds and their hearts up to what the truth is and to what they're not understanding about this DEI and this inclusion and equity and so forth, we're never going to be able to do it. And that's why I kind of, at the end of the article, I put in some suggestions of what we need to do to correct these situations. And that is get involved. We need to teach these things in our homes, in our churches. We need to get involved in our school systems, school board meetings and so forth, and facilitate the changes that'll bring us back to reality and common sense.
And at the end of the day, I really believe the ultimate answer is we need to get back to God, and we need to get back to faith in Jesus Christ, and we need to really be talking about what that transformation truly looks like. Well, brother, I love you, man. I'm so appreciative of having you on today. Thanks for being with me, Emery.
Thank you for having me on, and God bless everyone in the audience, and God bless you, and may you continue to keep America informed and be that light bearer in this dark world.
Thank you, sir. I greatly appreciate it.